All right, well, welcome to this week's edition of Virginia at Work, our podcast. And again, Cortex Leadership Consulting has it as their Corecast on their YouTube channel. With me is Lynda McNutt Foster with Cortex Leadership Consulting. Thank you so much, Lynda, again. And Sheila Umberger with the Roanoke City Libraries, correct?
That's correct.
We're doing kind of a series, if you will, on people who inspire, people who do things basically the right way. And Sheila, you're one of them. I'm going to make you blush. But I'm going to let Lynda kind of expand on what it is. You coach and you train so many people across this city. What is it that made you think Sheila's a great example of someone to follow her lead?
I chose Sheila specifically because she inspires me.
Mm-hmm.
When I watch her interact with her team, when I see what they say about her, how she's able to motivate them, really, honestly, though, when we think about getting things done, you know, Sheila is someone who gets it done. You know, when you think about the library system right now, I mean, 10 years ago, everybody was kind of thinking there aren't going to be a Barnes & Noble, there's only going to be a Kindle, those type of things. In the library system, I mean, for her to have been able to transform the city libraries, but mostly get the funding, find the funding, convince our community, our leaders, that this was necessary for the future of our children in this community and for adults to have access to the newest technology. I mean, she is being seen as a leader, not just in Roanoke, but throughout the United States from the American Library Association. She just was awarded the Peggy Sullivan Award, which is only given to a few leaders in her field. And, you know, maybe she can talk a little bit more about that. But I think she's someone who's walking the walk, talking the talk, and she truly leads the change she wants to see.
You know, and Sheila, tell me and the rest of everyone out there listening a little bit about how long you've worked for Roanoke City Libraries, and of that time, how much have you been the director of libraries?
Well, of course, I was a baby when I came to the city. I came here as the cataloger, but at that point it was 1982, and I was hired as basically the computer whiz kid because I knew how to convert the card catalog to computer code. So I proceeded to do that, and I was promoted within that. I worked in that position for 18 years.
Wow.
Within that time, I was promoted to head of the department, which in the library is called technical services. So it's all the behind the scenes. So when you think the book doesn't just appear on the shelf, you know, it's put into the computer. But we, in essence, over 4 years, we put in 400,000 computer records that represented each card in the card catalog.
I'm going cross-eyed just listening. I'm like, woo! Impressive. Already an inspiration to me because I could never do that. And talk about being, as a director of libraries, what that has meant in just the last 10 years. Because, you know, back in, say, the 1950s, you read a book, it wasn't a big deal. But now you've got social media. And you, again, like you just said, you were the technical whiz, which was perfect timing for you because that's where everything has gone, in ebooks and audiobooks.
I don't know if I've been the director since 2004, and I believe that what I learned early in my career or brought to it is when people would make comments about the library being replaced by technology, I would just have to chuckle about that because that original computer code was actually developed by librarians in the late 1960s. So the library has pretty much been ahead of the curve. We actually had the internet before anyone even was talking about it, when it was still like a government thing. So I think what I would view is basically our job in the community is to figure out what container people want their information in. So I'm concerned about knowing that. And also us being the experts in that, because people come to us for information on how to handle their Kindle or their iPad or whatever. And so we kind of now have positioned ourselves where we're the go-to tech people. But what we really are deep down and have been all along as a profession is we're the holder of information, and not just information, but how do you disseminate the information? How do you make sense of all the information? So for a librarian like myself, the internet's kind of like an emotional high. It's like so much information we can barely take it. But what we understand is when I talk about container, so for example, a lot of people will say they love books. I love books. I think I may be addicted to the smell of books, actually, as I go from the library to Barnes & Noble. I mean, everybody. But the bottom line is some people only want talking books or books on CD. Some people want graphic novels. Some people want DVDs. So it's our job in the library to figure out what that is. So, for example, someone may come in and they want to read Harry Potter, the book, or they may want to see the movie, or they want to hear the music. We have to be on top of it and have all of those containers of basically the same information. So if you're listening to Harry Potter on CD, it's the same as someone sitting. People would say, well, the experience is I want the book, but basically they're asking for Harry Potter at the end of the day, or they're asking for a book on gardening or whatever it is, but it's the container that we're after. So, for example, in about 2 years before iPads became popular, I had an innovation team. So there's everybody, if you look around, there's 4 or 5 people that just live technology. They just think that's fun. Well, we put them together and we're like, okay, what's the new trend? And they came up with iPads, literally 3 years before they hit the market. So within a year of that, everyone had one of those cool things. Well, they loved that because they had their own iPad before everyone else. We ended up teaching the community how to use iPads. We use them in story time. And now it's kind of a commonplace thing, but it wasn't originally. Originally, that was a big technology thing. So that's kind of our task is to, now we're looking at downloadable movies and music. So it's just constantly, but still at the end of the day, someone wants the movie, the music, the book.
No matter how it gets to them, whether it's technology or paper book that they can smell
And
that you like.
You're right, and if you think about that, it's not like it's going to, quote, disappear. It's like we're just responding to the needs of the community, which actually is the number one thing we want to do.
You know, and when we talk about leaders who inspire, I think you're so wrapped up in what you do, you just like, of course I did it. And I knew libraries wouldn't go away. I had no concerns. But Lynda, you could probably look at what she does compared to other people who maybe would not have taken that same approach and been in a complete panic mode however many years ago. What is she doing right that maybe other people should say, hey, I want to emulate that, or I want to learn more about that?
Well, she takes in a lot of different perspectives, and she takes a long-term view, and she thinks about people, and she thinks about broader topics like information dissemination. How are people going to interact with the information coming in, and then what are they going to need, and then how is my organization or anything I have authority over to help going to be able to distribute that? That's a very high-level thought.
Right.
It's not, oh my God, it's not driven by anxiety today. What do I need to shift today? But I think great leaders have a 30-year vision that they're focused on, and they firmly think about the community that they're serving, whatever that community is, and that specific need that they have.
And, you know, I know we've talked about this before, but just to kind of reiterate, if you could explain to people what the 4 keys of leadership behavior are and what those 4 things are that really just, all 4, I believe, need to happen, right, to be a good leader? You can't just pick one.
You can, unfortunately, you can't. Yeah, 89% from McKinsey & Company that did this massive research said that there's 4 keys. There's, you know, being results-oriented, seeking different perspectives, being supportive, in a way that you're coaching and developing your team. So it's not a rah-rah cheerleader thing, because it's empathy, it's friendly, but in the end, the leader's job is to make other people successful. Right. And then finally, it's being an effective problem solver. Right. So when you look at Sheila, she's hitting every single one of those boxes consistently, but most importantly, she is in the city of Roanoke, one of the people when there was the culture change going on, said, hey, I want my team. They're budgeting. I want my team because I want to grow my leaders. So she has for years now been looking at, you know, who are the people that I can grow and build who are going to be the future of this vision that I am just the steward of right now.
And talk about it too, Sheila, about maybe advice to someone who's listening to this, someone who's in a field similar to libraries. There's a lot of change in technology and how they should embrace it. Any advice on allowing them to embrace it instead of run scared the other way? Because that might happen.
Well, I think sometimes if you're, this is just my perspective on this, I think sometimes when you're, quote, in charge, you think you have to do everything yourself. So I think for me, the first thing is understanding it, but not necessarily saying that I'm going to be that techie person. So obviously I came from a technical background and I'm not afraid of it. That's part of it too, is it's something to embrace, not be afraid of, because what you can do is you can either surround yourself with people that are very good at this and not only good at it but enjoy it. You can also learn and you can learn from a perspective on how you support them. So I also think that allowing your team to have projects, allowing yourself to have projects, and that's something that I realized just fairly recently, that I was given a project at the beginning of that career. So I was doing the cataloging, but they came to me and we talked and everything, and we started talking about it, and we were saying, it's really a shame that everyone in the Roanoke Valley has to go to a different library, has to have a different library card to check out. And so they came to me about 1984, and they said, we'd like to assign you. So again, I had a good mentor, and my boss, he's like, I'd like to put you on a special project. I'd like to assign you to what's now the Department of Technology, to this other new person. We're both like 26 years old. And I want you to write the computer code for a joint library card. And so that's what we proceeded to do. Now, our biggest challenge in 1984 is we had 75,000 patron records, and we didn't have enough storage. I could probably carry that around, in a flash drive now, but that was our big challenge. But we proceeded to do that. We proceeded, literally, people brought all their library card files from, at that point it was Roanoke County, Salem, and the city of Roanoke, to the main library, and we literally typed them into this database that we had created. And you either hate each other in that or you bond. And we actually bonded with with all the staff in the valley, all the other library staff. And that's probably one of the biggest things that's happened that people maybe not be aware of, is the uniform card. You can go into 20 libraries, send stuff back and forth. That started in 1984. 88, we brought the system in. So all the records I had converted, we had converted as a team, and all those library cards all went into that new computer system. So it was almost like we were ahead of the computer technology at that point. But what was important to me at that point was the project. So now I think I call them stretch projects, or something where you're allowed to make a mistake, but you're allowed to also do something that maybe you really have an aptitude for, and you get to know other people on the team of like mind, and you're able to move projects forward. So when I look at projects, I don't go, I have to do all this. I'm like, okay, what are the 4 or 5 people that really could do well with this, and how can I support them? And that's how we move forward on things.
You say stretch project, and that caught my attention because we just had a session today where Lynda was talking about, with Cortex Leadership Training, on fostering an atmosphere where you allow your employees to fail. And stretch is a great way to put it too, but that's very important to build that trust and to get people to work for you the right way.
Yeah,
innovate.
Right. Innovation is all about trying different iterations of the same thing. And as I was listening to Sheila, what so inspires me is that she's always focused, and great leaders are, on the problem they're trying to fix, and they never think it's them that are going to fix it. It's never an I thing. It's here's a problem. Let me look instantly for the resources. Right? Let's not modify the problem or act like the problem isn't there or ignore the problem or get a bunch of drama around the problem, but go, wow, this is a problem that we can fix. Maybe I can't do it now, but we can do it. And just staying focused on the toughest problems for a long time, and allowing your team members to go, yeah, hey, you can't, it's not about losing $1 million every year in mistakes. We can't do that as organizations, right? Well, maybe Microsoft can. No, obviously, Google can, right? But the city of Roanoke can't. But it's about, hey, Nathan, try this and try it for a few days. Let's see if this works. Are we on the right track? We weren't. Okay, great. Let's shift. Let's move. Hey, is this the right person on the project? Maybe so. Maybe not. Let's shift and move and change in a way that celebrates innovation all the time.
Perfect. I think that is a wrap, my friends. This is wonderful information. Thank you so much, Sheila Umberger, with the City of Libraries. That's just going to make Roanoke the City of Libraries.
That's right. It is
the director. It is. You like that, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
Director of Libraries for the City of Roanoke, and of course, Lynda McNutt Foster, the CEO of Cortex Leadership Training. Thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully we will continue to inspire. And Sheila, I have no doubt you will as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.